guys, thanks for joining me for another Feed with You. This is a unique video. I've never done anything like this before, but I was doing a training class in person the other day about how to launch a website appropriately and making sure that you check all of your root files and making sure that there's not old web pages on there that could get cached and then would penalize you because they're basically blank pages or not accessible from the home page or sub pages. And no joke, this site, because it was brand new, the other day I was going through it because Naturescapes is a local company here that just had a re-grand opening, which is congratulations, by the way. And because of that, being in your backyard and living here for quite some time and doing this as my livelihood, I went through the website, and I just want you to know right off the bat, this is by no means a critique of the aesthetics and the functionality. This is just some really heavy duty search engine optimization, like 101, and like what not to do. So this video is not for the average consumer. I will be sharing this video on my own audience. I won't be tagging this on Facebook or anything because I don't want this to come off like I'm bashing the site and or whoever it is that made it. This is kind of just really good info for the community in which I belong in and the community in which I supply resource and educational pieces on how to, what not to do and how to make sure if it is like this, how to fix it. So diving right into it, this site was recently launched and it was on a platform that is not the current platform. Now I'm almost positive, I think the old site was WordPress. I used to work with Naturescapes back in the day, helping them out with some odd and ends, and I'm almost positive it was WordPress, but this same rhythm is across the board, whether it's WordPress and or another platform and you're going to a new one. It's imperative that that webmaster and or the company in general should know that those old pages, if not accessible, should be taken down and or what we call a 301 redirect. I'll go more in depth about what that means in English, but most importantly, here's some pretty basic knowledge. So right off the bat, we can tell that the site is a home, about, products, landscape, video. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, maybe 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and give or take. So let's just say it's about 10 to 15 pages, and right off the bat from the home page. And what I can see from a search engine optimization standpoint, what Google sees is one of the things I check when I see a new website being launched and or if I'm working with them, is a tool called Google Index. I mean, the tool I'm actually using is a Quake plugin, but the thing that you can check, and I'll show you how to do this, is the website is still being cached for, and what that means is it's being seen on Google as 178 pages. So, and don't just take my word for it. How we check that is go to Google, type in site semicolon in any domain you ever want to see. What does it look like on a Google, what they call SERP, search engine result pages? This is exactly where your website, basically the blueprint of what it is. And it's actually kind of interesting because this is kind of the value of your website as well, from greatest to least. But here's most important. So you'll notice here's the home page. There's a page of orchids. I can click on that. I can see that the page, it looks like it's built in the newer environment. It's accessible, it's pulling up, the content's there. But here's where the issues start to arise. I knew by looking at the site that it was not 170 some odd pages, just because I could tell that it didn't seem to have access points to there. So how do we find those pages? Go ahead and just click on maybe the 6th or 7th O of Google, and now you're going to start seeing posts that don't look natural from the original the new domain. So what does that mean? Click on it. You're going to notice right off the bat, error 404. So for those web developers and webmasters, we know that 404 means basically that it's empty shelves in a grocery store. You're walking down the aisle, it says, milk here, and boom, it's not there. It is absolutely detrimental to the happiness of the consumer because now they don't know where it is. They have to ask, or they're just going to say, screw it, I'm out. And or they never come back and they're like, I'm not going to use that when there's hundreds, literally of millions of other websites and or resources that I could use to find it more fastly and accurately. So what does this mean from a Google perspective? Well, Google is now aware of the fact that you have a 404. That means that the site, you as the webmaster, is still saying that, hey, I have content here. I have a resource here. Please index me and put me on the search engines. Well, they have. Well, what they're doing also is they're saying, well, wait a minute. your website's now telling me that you don't have any content here, and it looks like you don't even have any additional resource except for go back to home. So it's imperative that we check on that. Thank God that at least it does link back to the home page, but where is that content? So what needs to happen, I don't want this to just sound like this is what's wrong and adios. This is literally just a free resource trying to give some tidbits and help for not only those that are building and launching websites, but to make sure that this is checked and critiqued prior to launch. Because here's the most imperative situation. Because the site's newer, the newer site is new, that these old pages, it's ideal for someone to look into these and say, did we have value here? Now, content's king, we've heard this before, so it should be automatically, yes, it's valuable. How valuable is it? If it used to rank first page Google, it should be 100% optimal to get new content up that relates exactly to that, and then does what we call 301 redirect, which basically in English means super glue it together. That means that the old page is no longer there because the old platform is gone, but we did build new content, and we're telling Google, hey, check this out. We know that the old site's not there, but if you come here, here it is. Now, it's not always a guarantee that those rankings will stay or Google will even value that page, but it's absolutely imperative that those are done. Now, what's worst case scenario? Worst case scenario is just take them down, because what's going to end up happening here, and this is once again specifically catering to across the board, not just Naturescapes. This is anybody with a website, and I see this all the time, hence I was giving this training class. You launch a website, you don't really know about the root domain and those things that are kind of funky, meaning that there's still old pages somewhere on a hosting account, and you put a new site up and you think, well, it looks good, smells good, and we're good to go. That's not how it goes. Now, if you're just some smaller company and you don't care about rankings, which should never really be, but you don't care about rankings and you're not even worrying about driving traffic and or interest via the internet, then this doesn't apply to you. But if you're ever in a position where you're trying to get your website to rank or have value online, to be seen online, to pull up for Google search terms, nobody with integrity should ever be able to sit here and tell you right now, as this site sits, to sit there and take money and marketing this site, because it's, lack of a better words, it's sick. There are a lot of issues that need to be rectified prior to making it better. So what would happen in a situation for me is if this company had come to me and say, hey, we want to do SEO or we want to do some marketing, the first thing I'm going to do is go to the URL. I'm going to type here. I'm going to say 178 pages. I'm going to be like, wow, that's fantastic. I'm going to go finding for those pages. And you're going to notice that obviously more than most of them are not accessible. So it's my duty to bring the attention to the client. Hey, you have 15, or in this case, maybe even 50 to 100 404 errors. What do? Build content to replace the old ones with, or take the old pages down immediately. Because what ends up happening is, you've heard this before, my audience knows this, time is the most priceless commodity in Google's algorithm. So that means that by nature of consequence of just having a site live on Google, that you will gain rankings, whether you want them or not. Well, that's just as damning as it is good. So this site sits like this for the next year or two, and what will end up happening is you're actually being less and less valued from Google. Because why? Because you're not giving useful, relevant content to the user that you say you have. And once again, all of this is something that I want you, not just Naturescapes in general, but my audience and those that use me as a resource, check this out. This is, once again, not a me thing. Do your research. Look into what a 404 error is. Look into how detrimental it is to a website's value and its health. Check out how long it takes to rectify a site on a domain that's been sitting like that for, let's just say, 2-3 years, because all of this is archived data that doesn't change. And my last little tidbit is, go to a domain. Once again, I'm using it called SEO Quake. There's a tool called Web Archive, and I can see, and anybody in the industry that does this can see, how long has this site been in existence? Did we go high? Did we go low? I can tell if people did spammy tactics to try to skyrocket it. That's another issue in itself. But most importantly, this is a situation that happens all the time where a new website's launched. It looks good, smells good, but it's actually not healthy algorithmically behind the scenes, and it's going to be way more hard to get this site to rank where it used to if this is not addressed.